Welcome to the Sports Degos with your hosts Sonny and Murph. We advise you to turn down your speakers and turn up your crap filters because it's gonna get loud and messy. Just win, baby.
If I don't have to do all the crap I did this past Saturday as far as cut back and jump over somebody and stumble, I don't worry about getting caught, period.
On an unbelievable night, there's a high drive, get way back, and it's 20 to jump to the victory for the Oakland Athletics.
And laugh when he's conquered and won.
We got some physical players on our team. That's the way you have to play to win. That's the way we play.
Get fired up. I ain't playing. I'm telling you, get fired up. Stand up. Get out of that chair, moron. It's time for the Degos. That's right. Murph and Sonny from the Dago Dungeon. You got it right here, live.
Welcome to the Sports Degos. I am your host, Sonny. In studio, as always, is my not so lovely, but very tall co-host, Murph. How are you, sir?
Sonny, I'm doing fantastic. I love the new intro. I'm fired up, man. I'm excited to be back in the Dago Dungeon once again. It's a good time of the year to be talking sports. Man, we got some big things going on in the world of sports. Look forward to talking about them tonight, talking to you about it. Thanks for
You know, Murph, after the last few shows, I was listening back, we usually, get a good number of listens back from our show, and I was listening back to the intro, and it just didn't fit what we were trying to do, It just didn't fit what I had hoped we'd be doing on the radio show in the intro. And the intro it's almost like a first impression, It's the very first thing you hear of a show. And so if your intro is not gold, then how can you expect your show to be gold, Murph? So I diligently seeked and sought and pondered and efforted, and I believe, Murph, our intro is good. I like it. It's upbeat. It's moving. It has me pumped, Murph. It has me pumped to talk about all the things going on in sports in the world today. And there's so much. Just in Oakland alone, there's so much going on. The A's scored more points today than the Raiders did in a couple games last year. It's phenomenal, Murph. And on top of all that, UFC's going on right now. I got that on my other monitor here, so I'll be talking live about, the Diaz and the Pierre fight. And I don't know about you, Murph, how much of a big UFC fan you are or not. I'm hoping Diaz cleans this guy's clock. I don't know if it's the Italian in me or if it's the Raider in me, but I like the guy who's kind of the bad guy. You know what I'm saying, Murph?
We definitely always like the bad guy. We root for, the bad guys in the movies, whether it's Darth Vader or, I don't know, the Tattaglias or whoever. But, I got to say, man, I love the flair that Nick Diaz brings to the sport. I like a lot of the flair that a lot of the fighters bring. George St. Pierre has always been one of my favorite fighters. He's just so amazing. He's so technical. And to go up against a guy like Diaz, this is going to be a battle for the ages. I wish I would have been able to have the fight on tonight. Unfortunately, I'm not able to. But, man, I'm going to keep the updates. We're going to keep an eye on it. And we'll definitely throw out as we get updated, as we see things unfold in UFC 158, we'll definitely spit them out there for anybody that's listening. But, yeah, just an epic matchup tonight for UFC.
Lots going on, lots to talk about, so we'll be sure to hit that up. You're listening to the Sports Degos. You can check us out at our newly furnished, Murph. I like to think of a website as furnished because we had the building for it, right? We bought the land, if you will, but we recently furnished our website. So check it out, thesportsdegos.com. It's filled with all sorts of nonsense to keep you busy doing nothing for hours and hours on end. You can see a link to all the little show and segments that we do on the show. We ask for you to help us out with the beer wars. Every show we do, me and Murph here, as we naturally are competitive people, we're in a match to see who's drinking the better beer. And I think I win tonight. But we also, we need some help on voting that. You can listen live to the show. You can listen to all of the archived shows, as there's a podcast listen live section on the website. You can also tweet live with the show and also chat with the show as well. Murph, the website is looking good, man. It's looking good, man.
It looks awesome. Much like the intro that you so diligently worked on and upgraded this past week, such as with the website. It looks awesome. I love how you can tab through all the different features of the Sports Degos, whether it be the Raiders or it's our Beer Wars or our different segments on the show, Shut Your Fat Mouth, our weekly Sad Sack, which is a new segment we're going to start this week. And, of course, our whopping historical fact of the day and news stories. But I love the fact that you can go there. You can kind of break down all the different segments of the show. And you can listen to us live on Spreaker. You can hit the iTunes link, and you can find us on iTunes. You can find us on Stitcher. And it also has an archive for all the different podcasts that we put out in the past. So it's a great way to culminate all the different things that we got going on online. And so that is now officially our online home. And yes, it looks good.
We're stoked about it. If you want to call in, talk live, if you think something we're saying is too crazy, or if you agree, or if you just got nothing better to do on a Saturday night and you want to admit you're a loser calling a wannabe sports radio show, the phone number for that is 971-270-2007. That number again. Whoa.
Oh, I'm sorry. Repeat the number. Sorry, I forgot radio rules. You always got to say it twice. Go ahead.
Yeah, come on, Murph.
I'm
See
sorry.
What I'm saying? Wannabe.
Wannabe. I didn't go to the Connecticut School of Broadcasting like one of our listeners.
Domino. 9712. I'm burping up.
Oh, now you got to do it all over
again. Burping up lasagna. If you want to participate in the show, if you got nothing better to do on a Saturday night, if you're watching the fight and you want some company, you want some loud Italian Dago company, call up the show, 971-270-2007. Go ahead, Murph.
I forgot what I was going to say.
You're killing me. You
was going to. You said guys are listening to a wannabe sports talk radio show, and then my response was going to be, well, what's that say about us? We're hosting a wannabe sports talk radio show.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I'm already ate dinner. I'm like an hour away from bedtime. I'm an old man. It's just how we roll and stuff. It's just how you roll. Anyway, Murph, as we do always when we start the show, Beer Wars. We need like some theme music for Beer Wars too. Maybe we could steal something from Star Wars, or it could just be
something we can hijack. It wouldn't be the first time that we pilfered content.
No, it's not stealing. It's merely praising someone else for the great work they've done. It's
paying
worthy.
Honor.
Yeah, they've done something so great it's worthy to be borrowed. Murph, what are you drinking?
Well, last week, there was a little bit of a controversy on whether I actually converted on the three-peat that I was going for. I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say it was definitely a three-peat as I locked down 3 in a row with Newcastle, straight from England. I decided to bring it home this week. I decided to bring it home to, I think, what's considered a new classic. You get the old classics, as far as the microbrews go. Really Samuel Adams was kind of one of the first. Pete's Wicked Ale back in the day. Like there was, the quote microbrew, Sierra Nevada. But there's not necessarily a newer brewery, but a newer classic, and that is New Belgium Brewery's Fat Tire Amber Ale. You can see the picture up on the website. I got it parked up there next to my Raider bobblehead, and man, I got to tell you, this stuff is good. It's got that richness that I dig, but it's very, very drinkable. I like amber beers. While I do like the super dark ones like Guinness and Murphy's and those things, I got to say the ambers, the nut brown ales, those are really my favorite. And this has got to be the best amber ale that there is. New Belgium Fat Tire.
Good job, Murph. Good job, Murph. Way to bring it. I always, we kind of disagree on our beer, which is why this is a fun segment, because we'll never really bring the same beer unless it's, an American beer. And Fat Tire's an American beer, but I don't like those big heavy ones and stuff. I'm already thick enough as it is. I don't need to increase that as much as I can. Murph, I'm going with an oldie, but a goodie. I remember Murph as a little kid truffling through my father's garage finding cans of this type of beer. I remember Murph when I was 17, 18, first got my hands on a fake ID. This was my beer of choice along with my friends. Some say, Murph, if you're going to a special banquet, this would be the beer that you bring. Murph, I'm talking about 473 milliliters, 1 full pint, the legend since 1873, brewed in Golden, Colorado with 100% Rocky Mountain water for a legendary taste. Coors Banquet beer, baby.
And you go
Coors
Tall Boy.
Banquet
Tall
in the
Boy.
can. Now, Murph,
Tall yellow can.
here's why. Something happened this week, and I thought my beer should pay homage to what happened this week. We'll get to it a little later in the sad sack as well, but I gotta give props to Doomerville for helping the Raiders be that much better. Because Doomerville's a great player, and so the Broncos are a good team. As much as I hate to say it, they're good.
Yeah, they are.
And for their agent to not fax it or whatever happened, props, Doomerville. Thanks, man. This course, it's on you, buddy. Appreciate it.
Well, that's funny because coincidentally, we're both drinking Colorado beers tonight. For as much as we can't stand at least the state where the football team resides, Fort Collins, Colorado is where Fat Tire Amble. Sheesh, who's already had 2 of them. Fat Tire Amber Ale is brewed. And, Sonny, Fat Tire Amber Ale's appeal is in its feat of balance, toasty biscuit-like malt flavors, coasting in equilibrium with hoppy freshness. Named in honor of a storied bike ride through Europe, Fat Tire cruises with Belgian imagination and inspiration. Take it for a ride.
Nice.
Slam
Murph.
dunk.
Nice.
4 in a row.
Nice. Could be 4 in a row. We'll see what happens. Hey, go ahead.
I got 1 like on Facebook, so far I'm up 1-0.
Now, is it the Sports Degos?
Well, yeah. Don't judge.
You're the one judging. You judge your own beer. You can't judge your own beer. You're crazy. You're crazy.
Yeah, tweet us. Hit us at the Sports Degos, obviously. You can find us on Facebook, Facebook/the Sports Degos. We have a Tumblr page. Definitely thesportsdegos.com. You can hit us in the chat room. All kinds of ways to reach out to us. Let us know what you think. Is it New Belgium Breweries Fat Tire Amber Ale or the Coors Light Yellow Tall Boy, which I got to give you props. That is pretty cool.
I haven't drank in a long time, Merv. It's been a long time since I drank the old banquet beer. I like it. It's good. All right, Murph, this week on the show, we have Shut Your Fat Mouth, as always, whopping historical fact, the week. And Murph, it's a sad day today, Murph. We're doing away with the fat of the week. I know, there's harsh criticism against it, Murph. I know. Most of that comes from you because you love making fun of those fat guys. And maybe it makes you feel better for, being the tall, bald Irish guy you are. I don't know. But we're going to move a different direction. A direction you're familiar with, actually. Every week, we're going to nominate a weekly sad sack, Murph. A weekly sad sack. And I am stoked.
What do you mean?
There are a bazillion sad sacks in the world. And we need to start paying homage to them. We need to start paying homage to them. It's our duty. It's our obligation, Murph. It really is.
Oh,
really
man. Is. Okay.
I know you don't like it. I know you don't like it, Murph. But it's what we got to do.
Whatever. I guess we're going to
suck it up. It'll be okay. It'll be okay. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll come back. Shut your fat mouth. Whopping historical fact of the week. Weekly sad sack. You're listening to the Sports Degos.
Hey, yo, Vinny. What's the name of Daddy's radio show?
The Sports Degos, yo.
What's your cousin's name?
Yo, Sonny.
Yo, Sonny. And what's Daddy's name?
Yo, Murph.
Yo, Murph. How old are you?
6.
6. And you know that the greatest team in the history of sports is who?
The Raiders.
And who stinks?
The Broncos.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. Murph, we got audio sounds. We got audio sounds like crazy, Murph. I went crazy this week. All right, Murph, we're going to jump right into Shut Your Fat Mouth.
Hey! Is this on? Hey, shut your fat mouth! I'm talking here!
Top of my field, so I'm all pro. I'm the best, one of the best 22 players in the NFL. You're going to brush it off, but I don't think you're the best 22 anything in sports and in media and anything. I think you think more of yourself than you actually can, prove. But
okay. Do you think you're better than Darrelle Revis is right now?
In my 24 years of life, I'm better at life than you.
Okay.
So
all right, that's fair.
Let's get down to that.
Let's not get personal here. I just want to know.
Murph, Richard Sherman tells Skip Bayless he's better at life than him. Go ahead, sir.
Wow. It's so funny because I really, really don't want to come to the defense of Skip Bayless, because Skip Bayless could get shut your fat mouth from this radio co-host every single week. I think that most of the time he says things purely to be controversial, and if it wasn't for the fact that Stephen A. Smith shared the screen and Showtime with that man, that show would be the biggest turd on television. Because I love Stephen A. He always speaks the truth, and I really dig his perspective. But Skip Bayless is just so, whether it be the whole, LeBron thing that he continues to ride even after LeBron has proved that he, can not only win a championship but can be clutch at times and has adjusted his game and yada yada yada, or whether it be the fact that he continues to honk about Tim Tebow. And I mean, there's numerous things we could dog Skip Bayless about, but in this case, I gotta say, the Shut Your Fat Mouth of the Week award goes to Richard Sherman, and here's why. We talked a couple of weeks ago about how fun that Twitter battle was that he had with Darrelle Revis, and I liked that. He kind of was tugging on Superman's cape a little bit. Mm-hmm. He does have the numbers to back it up, and he's trying to define himself as the best corner in the league. I kind of get that, and that's in this. A lot of those guys in the famous DBs over the years, whether it be the Soul Patrol, the Raiders, or whether it be guys like Dion in his prime. They all kind of had this brashness about them, this swagger to them, and I like that. But to go onto a nationally televised show on the worldwide leader and to just dog out one of the hosts, completely avoid all of his questions, and just repeatedly go – I mean, he calls him a cretin. He tells him he's an idiot. He tells him that he's all of his facts or none of his opinions are based in facts, that it's all conjecture. Like, he just goes after him, bang, 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 one after the other. And I think that Richard Sherman is getting himself to a point now to where I'm paying less attention to his accomplishments off the field.
How's that fat tire treating you?
Thank you. Yeah, no kidding. I'm paying less attention to his accomplishments on the field and paying more attention to the stuff that's coming out of his mouth off the field. And so I think that he's doing himself a little bit of a disservice. I want to see him pump the brakes on that a little bit. Yeah, we still got a long way to go in the offseason, but Richard, stay off TV for a little bit, give it a break, and for the moment, shut your fat mouth.
Murph, growing up playing sports, ever since I was 4 years old, 5 years old, and my dad always taught me one thing. Pretty much only taught me one thing. He said, love the Raiders.
Coors Tall Boys?
Yeah, besides Coors Tall Boys, Kenny Stabler, and Reggie Jackson, Mr. October. The other thing he taught me was let your play talk, right? When you're on the field, let your skills do all your talking for you. You don't engage in the trash talk because nobody wins in that. Nobody. If you look at every argument ever that's happened in the history of sports between two guys who think they're great, never once has like two people been engaged and then somebody says, "Oh man, you know what? You just made a really great point. My bad, dude. I'm not as good as I thought I was. Thanks for pointing that out for me," right? You would never hear that, dude. So it's all just this entertainment, whatever and stuff. This male bravado coming out, and maybe that's just what makes them great. But the great ones, the truly great ones, let their play do the talking. And once in a while, you get a Deion Sanders who's great and flashy, but he couldn't tackle nobody. And so, it just goes on and on. And Sherman, gosh, this guy's putting a tremendously large X on his back for next year. Because we knew he was pretty good, but with all the talking he's done in the last, 2 months? It's not even been 2 months since Super Bowl. All the talking he's done, man, you got to think every quarterback is going to be gunning for that guy and to clown him,
Well, and let me ask you this. You bring up an interesting point, though, is that at the end of it, sports is entertainment. That regardless of, obviously the open competition of it all, it's entertainment. Like, why do we watch it? It's because we're entertained. We enjoy seeing, athletes in the absolute peak performance levels. We enjoy watching that. We enjoy watching the competition between them, right? So that's what entertains us. There are also certain things, the off the field things, maybe even some of the on the field things, whether it be celebration of a touchdown or whatever, the way that baseball players treat each other in the dugout with the pranks and all that. There's a certain amount of entertainment level there too. So let me ask you this question. Is what Richard Sherman is doing now, is it entertaining? And should we look at it like that and kind of, more celebrate the fact that, look, this guy's kind of funny. He's going on, ESPN and he's just ripping one of the co-hosts? Or is he crossing a line to where, maybe he's a parent, maybe, you look at it and you're like, this guy is not a good example. I don't want my kid thinking that that's okay to talk junk like that. Like which side of that do you fall on? Should we look at it like it's just pure entertainment, or do we or should we be critical of the guy like we are now?
It's tough because you're not in Richard Sherman's head, and so all we can do is, as fans and fans of football, is sit back and just look at the situation. But I think you got to look at motive in order to find out where he's at. Now, is it fun and games like maybe Barkley used to do? Barkley used to ham it up. Rodman, they used to ham it up all the time and have fun with it. But it seems, and this is just my opinion, it seems Sherman's coming from a point of not getting respect. It's like he feels like he's done enough and he's earned his respect, but he's not getting it yet. So he feels he has to chime in and always be chirping to get that respect. And to me, that I lose respect for the guy and stuff,
Yeah, and I don't think he's got enough of a track record yet to expect
2 years?
Kind of treatment.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Not after 2 years, no.
When did you ever hear Ronnie Lott do this? Would Ronnie Lott ever get on and chirp, chirp, chirp? Nah, man. That guy just freaking hits you like a baseball bat when you come over the middle. That's his chirping, So Richard Sherman, shut up, man. Ridiculous. Moving on, Murph, to a better topic. Murph, we follow a lot of Italians on Twitter and stuff, We're Italian, Sicilian by nature and stuff, and, old school gangsters and stuff and new school gangsters, and they're always showing pictures and stuff, and, man, those old school Italians, they sure dressed well, Dressed to impress, never nonetheless, right? Just suits, businessmen and stuff, businessmen, Murph. What historical fact do you have for us today?
Well, Sonny, we had to dig. We had to dig deep, deep, deep into the Sports Dego archives to come up with a qualified Italian to represent the whopping historical fact of the week. There really wasn't a lot going on this day throughout Italian history. There was some very famous Italian composers that unfortunately passed away in the 1500s. But how relevant would that be to our radio show? We were almost relegated to depending on the birth of Wolfgang Van Halen. the son of famous Italian actress Valerie Bertinelli. But after digging through stacks and stacks of the archives, I came across not only a whopping historical fact, but this is also an NFL fact. This man is the answer to an NFL trivia question. And speaking of defensive backs that were at the peak of their game, I'm going to ask you a trivia question, Sonny.
Uh-oh.
Who was the player deactivated for Super Bowl 30? This is the Dallas Cowboys versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, 1995, I guess. Who was the player deactivated for Super Bowl 30? So Rod Woodson, who was hurt all year long, who was the player deactivated so Rod Woodson could play in the Super Bowl?
I want to say the last name rhymes with rigatoni, potentially.
Very close.
Eric Raviati.
Oh, my gosh, you nailed it.
Bam. Thank you.
Bam.
Thank you.
Eric Raviati, born this day, March, what day is it? 16th. 1971.
Something like that.
Eric Raviati, congratulations. You are our whopping historical fact of the week.
Oh, thanks. Thanks, Eric Raviati. Thanks, Eric Raviati. You know, Murph.
His name is almost Ravioli. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. I wouldn't mind that kind of name. Murph, I got to be honest with you here. I just sent out a tweet saying the same thing. I'm reminded with every drink of this Coors beer why it's been so long since I've ever had a drink of this Coors beer here.
Well, you know what's cool about the tall boys is that once you get to that last 4 ounces, they're nice and warm.
And I got 5 more I got to drink. Oh, my gosh. All right. Murph, before I introduce the sad sack, I got a little intro music, Murph. I'm a little excited here. Here we go.
Welcome back to the Dago. Oh, no, wait, this is the sad sack thing. Okay. The sad sack of the week is as follows. Hey, sad sack. Seriously? You are the sad sack of the week with Murph and Sonny.
Of Uncle Mark.
If anybody only knew what that guy looked like as he's saying that, it'd be really great. Murph, this week has been insane. I don't think I've gotten anything done at work, and my phone battery has been dead by noon. I want to say 3 of the 4 days or the 5 days this week. I say 4 because I only work 4. Man, free agency, right? Just every day, I'm just on my phone looking at Twitter. Like, Twitter breaks way faster than ESPN, so Twitter's been awesome. Well, so really cool. So I'm tracking stuff, we got this guy coming into Oakland, this guy's leaving Oakland, this guy's going to Denver, this guy's going to wherever and stuff, right, But then, Murph, towards the end of the week, something happened. And I believe if you're a Raiders fan, you have to rejoice at the stupidity of one organization, Murph. The organization that is responsible for me having to drink this Coors Yellow garbage once again, Murph. The person known as Elmas Doomerville. His agent, Murph, made a multi-million-dollar mistake. Now, Murph, I work, in an office setting and stuff, and you work as a sales guy, and so it's like, we know what it's like to meet deadlines. We know what it's like to have to get important documents faxed over or emailed or scanned, if you will. But, Murph, I've never made a $1 million mistake before by not faxing something. And so this week's sad sack of the week goes to Marty Majid.
Hey, sad sack. Seriously? You are the sad sack of the week with Murph and Sonny.
How do you not get the paperwork faxed in time? It just baffles me, Murph. In an agency, in an organization as big as the Broncos, under an umbrella as big as the NFL, faxes are still in existence. We still have to depend on fax machines and stuff. It's like, and these guys don't get it in. Are you kidding me? Was he not worth it to try to get it ahead of time? Like, I hate the Broncos, but I'll be honest, Dumerville's a beast, dude. He's a stud. Why would you not get that guy, like, secure? Just baffles me. So, Marty Majid, I hate to pile on because you already lost your job.
Fired.
Fired, as Trump would say. Maybe you should go that route, Murph. Get that nice toupee going and stuff. And you see that fire thing real well.
Hey.
Marty Majid, sad sack of the week. I don't know if there's anybody even close, Murph, who could come in a distant second, you know?
I don't know, maybe the entire Broncos fan base that they lost their, best pass rusher. I mean, well, maybe Von Miller, but whatever. He arguably their best pass rusher. You know what? We don't hide our heritage. There's all and we know there's been conspiracies against Italians from day one. We don't hide our fandom for the Oakland Raiders, and we definitely know there's conspiracies against our football team. I think the conspiracy theorist in me says this happened on purpose. I don't think Elvis Dumerville wanted to accept less money. I think they intentionally did it. I think the fact that he fired his agent is a complete, not a cover-up, but is just a story to try to redirect the attention, to try to give him additional credibility. You watch. This guy's going to end up in New England on a $12 million a year contract, and he's going to dominate those Broncos in the playoffs. Come on, Patriots.
Ridiculous. Now, once word broke that Dumerville wasn't going to be in Denver, obviously Oakland fans are like, oh man, let's get Dumerville on our team and stuff.
Oh yeah, with the $6 we have in cap room.
Yeah, Mackenzie just spent a grip getting rid of people and stuff. We got so much dead weight. I don't know if he wants to bring in Dumerville. And Murph, it brought up an interesting question in my mind, and I guess it's in the world of sports. You have a guy who wears a certain uniform, and that's really what it comes down to, unless you have a diehard homer who actually plays for his favorite pro sports team. But most of the time that doesn't happen. It's a business, yet we take it over the top. Oh, yeah. So you got a guy like Dumerville. 6 months ago, we hate this guy. We despise him. Yet, now that he's a free agent, we'd love to have him on our team. Do you root for a guy like that? If he's a donk, and then he comes over and he's a Raider, are we happy about that as fans, or is it like, hey, wait a second here, you're a freaking, you're a Bronco. I don't want you on my team. Like how do we reconcile that?
That's an awesome question, and there are two examples that come to mind. When Willie Brown came over to the Raiders from the Broncos, that was long before both of your and mine time, and really his career is defined by what he did with the Oakland Raiders. And there's been plenty of cross-pollination in the AFC West over the years, with teams taking different players. Shoot, it even happened last year, Kevin Boss and Stanford Route going over to the Chiefs. I mean, it happens all the time. And really it happens in a lot of divisions in football because those teams are so familiar with one another. They're so familiar with those players that when they have a chance to actually add those players to their roster, if the other coaching staff is familiar with them, they'll do it. But all that said, there are two examples of this happening of guys that I absolutely could not stand coming over to the Oakland Raiders. One was Jerry Rice. And Jerry Rice, when he was a Niner, he broke the freaking touchdown record against us on Monday night. Was not a fan, okay? None of us were. Early on, he was such a whiner, always whining about the ball and everything. But then by the time he got to the Raiders, he was more the cagey veteran. He never tried to upstage Timmy Brown, who was obviously our favorite. He kind of fit into his role, and he was a good player for what he was still able to bring to the table. As I always say about Jerry Rice, yeah, he may have lost a step during his time with the Raiders, but he was already 3 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah, so 3 steps
that
to
one
lose.
didn't matter. So that was a little more palatable than this other guy I'm getting ready to mention. This guy was not only a donk, he was a freaking Niner, and he was the biggest jerk on the face of the planet. He broke a guy's eye in training camp one year. He spit in the face of one of the Pittsburgh Steelers in another year. This guy was known for being cheap, dirty, and an absolute chump on and off the field. And I'm talking about Bill Romanowski. And then all of a sudden he came over to our team and solidified a linebacking core that helped really get us to the Super Bowl. And, man, I got to say, I still, to this day, he kind of claims the Raiders. He talks a lot about the Raiders. He did one of the shows, the online shows, him and Eric Davis did. It was like a point counterpoint thing where he would take the Raiders and Eric Davis would take the Niners. But anyways, so he's kind of claimed the Raiders. And while I do like the fact that he is out and about talking about our team, man, when he was playing for us, I did have a little bit of a problem with him. Obviously I wanted our team to be successful, but I still couldn't really wrap my arms around him as a fan, knowing not only what a jerk he was, on and off the field, but the fact that he played for the two teams that we can't stand the most, sans maybe the Steelers and the other two teams that play in our division. So I don't know. That's a great question. I think other than Romanowski, you can kind of swallow it. You can kind of deal with it as long as that player is helping bring your team success and they kind of stay in their shoes while they're there.
Ronnie Lott did it too, right? He was a Raider.
Yeah, Ronnie Lott. There you go. Ronnie Lott played for us. Yeah, absolutely. But Ronnie Lott
and there's certain guys.
So many things I like about him, and Woodson even. I mean, came over from Pittsburgh.
Yeah. There's certain guys that always should have been Raiders, right? Yeah, Romanowski. Yeah. I mean, he spits in the guy's face. That's what you should do as a football player and stuff. He should have been a Raider. Ronnie Lott. Yeah, he had no business playing for those sissies across the bay. He should have been a Raider and stuff. But like, I don't know. It's a weird thing. 2 years ago when we flew down to California to go to that Raider game against the Jets, I remember I was walking through the airport and stuff, and I got my Raider hat on, Raider shirt and stuff, and I'm stoked, right? And I'm walking through the airport there, and I look over in the bar, and I hear this loud commotion going on and stuff, and I see it centering around kind of this one guy and his wife, and they're sitting there at the table, and they're bragging about going to the Raider game and stuff, and I couldn't really see because there's a lot of people around, right? And so I go in the bar, and I sit down, have a beer, and I'm kind of just listening to the conversation and stuff, and I turn around and look, and the guy's wearing a freaking Jerry Rice jersey, a Raider Rice jersey, and here this guy is saying, oh yeah, I'm going to the game, blah, 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 and he's wearing a Rice jersey, and it almost ruined it for me. I almost like completely discredited anything he said because he had a Rice jersey on, and I was like, is that wrong of me?
A Niner Rice or
no Raider Rice? But I was like, it's still wrong. Like, why would you ever buy that? Like when you think of Joe Montana. Is there any Kansas City Chiefs fans out there who, think Montana was the greatest Chiefs quarterback of all time? Like, he was a Niner, Stabler. He was a Raider. Even though he went to the Saints, later on in his career. He's a Raider, So, I don't know. Doomerville, I don't want him anywhere close to Oakland. Nowhere near. Anyway, Murph, I'm done. I'm full. This Coors beer's filling.
Full of Coors and lasagna. Class. Nothing but class.
It's a good night. It's a good night in my house. All right, Murph. Let's get a commercial break real quick. We'll come back and we'll hit up Raiders Repertoire. Man, there's been so much work going on this week, Murph. We got about 2 hours worth of Raiders stuff. But listening to Sports Degos. Check us out on Twitter at Sports Degos, at The Sports Degos. Website, thesportsdegos.com. Phone number 971-270-2007. Back after these messages.
It's time for another boring podcast. Poop. That's right. The Degos are back. Can't get rid of them. They're like a bad penny.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. All right, guys, welcome back to the Sports Degos. Check us out on Twitter at the Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com. Murph, before we go any further, we have to give props to where props are due. Murph, we're over 30s. You're pushing the next one.
Yeah, I'm almost over 40.
you're pushing the next big one, and we're trying to stay cutting edge, if you will, right? You remember that point in time to where your parents couldn't program the VCR and you had to do it, and you're like, stupids. This comes easily, right? Well, now with like Twitter and all these little new social medias and stuff, we got to work hard to stay on the cutting edge and stuff. Not only on cutting edge, but like stay hard, with what's happening, what's the latest and greatest technology and stuff. And Murph, I've been blown away at Twitter recently. I've had Twitter for a couple years and mainly follow it just to follow sports guys and stuff like that, and news and stuff. You find out, faster on Twitter and stuff. But, up until last Saturday, we had 100 followers on Twitter. We've been doing our show now for, I think, 9 weeks or maybe 8 weeks. And, had 100 followers and, not a lot of going on and stuff, In 1 week, Murph, we've gained over 300 followers. And most of it, Murph, has been Raider Nation. Phenomenal. Many people bash Raider Nation. Many people say they're thugs and criminals and they're whatever and stuff, and they don't care and all that kind of stuff, But man, Murph, nothing but love, right? Nothing but respect all week from guys and stuff, and just talking Raiders, up in Oregon up here. I don't got a lot of people up here that are Raider fans and stuff. Most of them are Seahawks, and I'm like, how can you root for a football team from Seattle? You know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's boring up here for me as far as Raiders go and stuff. So like finding this network, this brotherhood of Raiders on Twitter has just been phenomenal. It's been awesome, man. I've been so stoked. And so before we get into Raiders Repertoire, mad props to the guys on Twitter, man. You want to say anything, Murph?
Yeah, definitely. I certainly want to acknowledge all the people that are following us on Twitter and interacting with us on Twitter. The response that we've had this week has been overwhelming. I mean, my notifications are blowing up on my phone constantly from the folks that are not only following us but are sending us tweets and letting them know their thoughts about free agency and letting us know their thoughts about the UFC and all that. And we try to stay as interactive as possible. And I just want to throw out a couple of names, folks that have just followed us tonight: Michael Reynoso, Steve Betancourt, Brian Williams, David Manwaring, Todd Monday. These guys are all over Sports Degos here recently, and we just really appreciate it. That's just a handful of the folks that followed us tonight. But as you mentioned, we tripled our participation on Twitter this past week, and our numbers, our listening numbers have been reflective of that also. And you know what, man, it's the power of the Raider Nation, and you and I felt
yeah,
it,
man,
2 years ago when we were walking in week 3 into the Oakland Coliseum, the O.co, to watch our beloved Oakland Raiders take on the New York Jets. And I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. The feeling, the camaraderie, the sense of union of the Raider Nation is amazing. And all these other bullcrap organizations of these players that are calling themselves Chiefs Nation or Ravens Nation
sick.
Or whatever. There is only one nation. That is the Raider Nation. It started with us. It ends with us. All the others can buzz off. It's been awesome. And so thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everybody paying attention to what we do. We have a lot of fun with it, but it wouldn't be any fun if we didn't have the participation, the interaction from everybody out there. So thanks to the Twitterverse, thanks to Raider Nation, and all right.
Yeah, our wives are great. Our wives. Man, this Coors
our wives.
Is killing me. This Coors is killing me.
Is that like knives?
Yeah. Our knives. Our wives are thankful too, right? Because now we don't have to badger them like, oh man, did you hear what Reggie McKenzie did? Oh, honey, check this out. They cut Hayward Bay and stuff, and like they don't give her flying crap and stuff, So the fact that we got an outlet is great. So Murph, about those Raiders, let's just. I mean, there's so much to cover.
So much.
We'll take maybe 15, 20 minutes or so, And if you're listening and you want to chime in, hit us up on Twitter at thesportsdegos.com. No, hit us up on the website, thesportsdegos.com. On Twitter at thesportsdegos. Call in 971-270-2007. Murph, is Reggie McKenzie doing what he needs to do, or is he not doing enough? My first question to you.
I think Reggie. You want me to keep this one short? Or you want me to ramble about Mr. McKenzie?
Give me your opening thoughts.
I think ultimately that it is still early in the process. I don't think that he has enough of a track record to give a true judgment of what his performance has been. And I think that ultimately he's taking us in the right direction, but it's an unfamiliar direction for us as Raider fans.
I would agree. All through Twitter this last week, it's been, I'm going to say, a little more in favor of what he's doing, but the blowback is constantly reading these tweets of we've been rebuilding for 10 years. What the hell are you doing, McKenzie? Yeah, we've been rebuilding forever and stuff. What are you doing? We're gonna really suck this next year. Why aren't you bringing in any big names? And it's like, man, you're 4-12. How much more suck? Don't you need to do something when you're 4-12? And you think about it, ever since that Super Bowl against Tampa Bay, man, the Raiders have just been in the tank for the first time in their history. I mean, there was never been a stretch where this long the Raiders were bad. The Raiders have always been semi-good to really good. And so for the last 9-10 years, almost 11 now, we've just been horrible. Laughing stock, right? I mean, we don't even have anything to fight back with, other than we got 3 rings and stuff, but that was a long time ago,
1983 was a long time ago.
Yeah. And so I'm stoked, personally. And there's some things I wish would happen and stuff, but ultimately I'm a fan, right? I don't know what goes on. I don't know what the contracts are. I have no idea how to run a locker room full of, 53 big guys who have been told their whole lives are the greatest thing ever and stuff, and the egos that are in that kind of room. Like we have no idea as Twitter GMs, I love that word, how to run an organization. All we can do is like or not like what they're doing. Our comments really are meaningless because we're just fans. Although the fans do drive the team sometimes, because if there was no fans, obviously they probably wouldn't play games, right? Wouldn't make no money. However, I like what he's doing because it hasn't been done before. Maybe ever as a Raider. I don't know. I think of free agent moves. Let's see. Javon Walker. That was a good one. Who else, Murph? Were some
D'Angelo Hall.
D'Angelo Hall, yes. Fascinating one.
Dante Culpepper.
Dante Culpepper, yes.
Aaron Brooks.
Great things that happened. Oh, Aaron Brooks was phenomenal. And just the numerous draft picks that were wasted and stuff, it's like, it has to stop. And for people to expect for us to go along the status quo after a 4-12 season, man, really? That's ridiculous. He's doing exactly what we have to do. Blow up that roster, get rid of the dead weight, get rid of the players, and bring in guys who want to play, and you can manage the money and start drafting properly. Not because a guy runs a 4-2 but has hands, like they're bricks or something like that. I think as fans, we fall in love with players versus falling in love with winning and being a good team. Hayward Bay got cut. That was sad to see him go. He's a Raider. We drafted him and stuff. It was one of Dave Davis's last draft picks. But man, was he really productive? Was he really one of those can't cut receivers? I mean, what was it, a year ago, 2 years ago? The guy couldn't catch anything, and he started to catch on a little bit and stuff, But it wasn't like he was anything great, and yet we get all up in arms with, what? You cut Hayward Bay? Like we trip, I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
Like we can't find another guy to go out there and drop passes?
Yeah. There's a lot of fast guys who can stretch the field but not catch. That's for sure.
Well, you bring up a good point, and yes, we do. We tend to identify with players. We see them, especially when we draft them, especially a 7th overall pick, like what Hayward Bay was, and And I'm not going to beat up on Hayward Bay because that guy has an incredible work ethic. And I think that anybody who's paid enough attention to our football team over the past, 3-4 years has seen that Darius Hayward Bay works his butt off to get better. And I'm really, and I, as fans, we appreciate that too. We appreciate the guys that put in the work. We fly all over, guys like Jamarcus Russell who don't. Those are the ones that get us, the guys that don't give it 100%, the guys that don't give all to the team, and so it hurts our feelings a little bit when a guy like DHB or a guy like Michael Huff gets cut because we see that they're trying to be the best player they possibly can. Is it their fault that they have inflated contracts that don't make sense in the long-term success of the franchise? Absolutely not. So I think that that's something that we as fans have trouble with, and especially, again, as Raider fans, this is a whole new thing for us to deal with, or to see our team go through. If anything, to me, has become crystal clear. We always kind of knew it, but what's become crystal clear to me in this offseason is that Al Davis was an absolute master of the salary cap and to getting his guys renegotiated to the point to where he could go out and sign high-priced free agents. We've always had inflated contracts. We've always had a bunch of dead money. But Al Davis was somehow able to consistently go out and sign the big-name guys. Were they good players? No, not necessarily. You know, Raider Nation brings up to us on Twitter about Jabril Wilson. There's another guy. You know, he was coming off a Super Bowl win with the New York Giants. He was, you know, a good safety, so we signed him. He was terrible in silver and black. Larry Brown was. I mean, it just goes on and on and on and on. And so Desmond Howard. So Al Davis demonstrated that he had this ability, this uncanny ability to get this done. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's the best thing to do as far as the overall health of the organization. This team has needed to be gutted for a long, long time, as you have mentioned. Probably 6-7 years easily. You know, once, you know, Gannon was concussed out of a career and he was gone, and, you know, Rice moved on to go play with the Broncos or Seahawks or whoever the crap it was he moved on to, and, you know, Wheatley was gone. And once all those guys that were kind of the core, Beaker, you know, Woodson moved on to the Packers, once all that stuff happened, that's when the rebuilding process needed to happen, and it didn't. So now you got a guy like Reggie McKenzie who studied under Ted Thompson in Green Bay, who is notorious for not signing free agents. You know, other than, you know, when they signed Reggie White, that was one of the first, you know, major free agent signings. It was the major free agent signing for that football team, and really one of the bigger ones in NFL history. But aside from those isolated incidents, that's a team that knows how to build almost exclusively through the draft, and that's what McKenzie is going to do. He's going to trade away that number 1 draft pick. He's probably going to acquire more picks, especially since the Raiders don't have a second, and he's going to build us a football team. Here's something else to think about. This year is going to suck. We were 4-12 last year. I hate to say it, guys. We're going to be lucky to get back to 4-12 again. Do we have some good young players coming in? And we're going to get to it here in just a second when we look at what the Raiders are doing in free agency. Absolutely, the answer is yes. Are we building towards a greater goal than 4-12? Absolutely, yes. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. And there's two things that tell me that it may not. I think that within the organization, there's an understanding that this team is not going to have success in the short term. I think that it comes by Mark Davis giving all decision-making power to Reggie McKenzie and coming out and publicly saying this team is on a 5-year plan. No one's questioning Dennis Allen's position as a head coach. No one's questioning Reggie McKenzie and his position as a GM. Did Mark Davis say, that's not kind of what we expected? Yeah, that's what he said, but I think that ultimately he knows that this team's going to struggle early on. The other thing and again, the conspiracy theorist within me says, the Raiders tarped Mount Davis for the first time. The Raiders reduced the amount of the total occupancy of O.co. They're going to expect this team to not be very good this year and to have a reduced average attendance over the 8 games that get plus the preseason that gets played at home. I got to think the Raiders are going to do this. They're going to suck up that $32 million worth of dead money. And then in 2014, if they got a high draft pick, they go after a guy like Jadeveon Clowney, who's probably going to be a once-in-a-lifetime type player. They're going to really have a good 2014 draft to complement this draft coming up in 2013. And then that's when we start our rise back to being competitive in the AFC West, especially when that old giraffe quarterback in Denver decides to retire. Phillip Rivers is going to be past his prime. The AFC West is going to be just ripe for picking. And, folks, I think that by 15, 16, the Raiders are going to be up on top of that division and competing for a Super Bowl title.
It certainly looks like it. The frustrating part is that we've thought for so long we've been in rebuilding mode, It's like we've been under the impression we've been in rebuilding mode, but we haven't been. We've been, okay, let's overpay this guy and draft this guy, and let's cross our fingers and hope and pray. Okay, let's cut this guy and bring in this guy, and he'll be the one to make it. Okay, let's fire that coach and bring in this coach. Okay, that'll fix all the problems. Like, I love Al Davis. He was a great, the godfather, if you will, of football. But he and you take a different approach to his salary cap for sure, because most people would say he was horrible at salary cap management, but he was great because no matter what, his team was always able to sign a ridiculous contract, as ridiculous as it was. So he was smart in some areas, but I don't know. I think towards the end his philosophy started going and stuff. I'm not gonna.
The sport.
He was the greatest.
He didn't grow with the sport in his last 10 years, probably. Yeah, and really, we could even predate the Gruden years. Once he decided to give total control over to Gruden, or not total control, but he gave a large portion of control over to Bruce Allen and to John Gruden, and that's ultimately what resulted in the success of the late 90s and the early 2000s. Because really, after that, you got to roll the clock back to Art Shell, 1.0 to find any success for the Oakland Raiders. So really, Al Davis, we're going to say probably 15, 20 years maybe, that he was just kind of behind it. And obviously this is no criticism of what the man accomplished. And, there's no doubt that you and I are alcoholics. We love the man, and we just, everything that he brought to the Raiders is to be respected. But it's an unfortunate fact that, yes, the last 15, 20 years, just the Raiders absolutely struggled.
And so here's the problem. We struggle for 9-10 years. And now we have to rebuild for another 2, possibly 3 years. Yeah. And so it's like we go from – but here's the cool thing, I think. We go from really having no hope but being told we had hope to you have hope, but it's 3 years down the road. We've been existing on this mindset of, we're just a couple games away. When Campbell went down, what were we, 8-8? No. We ended up 8-8, but – I think we were 7-4 when Campbell went down, wasn't that right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and then stupid Hugh, sells the farm for Palmer and stuff, but it's like we've been close, and we've always thought we're just a couple moves away, but man, we've really been farther than that. And so I think we really have actual hope now more than ever, but it's just going to take an extra 2 or 3 years, and that's what I think the hard part for Raider Nation to swallow is. But I think it's good. I mean, it sucks, especially when you look over the freaking Rocky Mountains at the stupid donkeys loading up to make a huge splash this year. But in 2 years, you make a great point. In 1 and 2 years, that team's done. Welker's gone, Manning's gone, all those inflated contracts, they're not gonna be a contender for very long. So they're going for this year and next year. It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be really interesting watching the Raiders. Can they be better than 4-12? I think they can. That's not a hard mark to beat. I don't think and stuff. Real quick, Murph, I'm watching the fight. Nick Diaz comes walking out, shirt, jeans on. That's beast. Nice. This guy's awesome. A Raider. If there was a Raider, this guy's a Raider. That's sick.
That's awesome. Hey, and also Raider Nation just tweeted us. Jason, I love Twitter. It's a crowdsource. They correct us when we're wrong, and we love it.
Yeah, 4-2.
Jason Campbell, 4-2. The Raiders were when Jason Campbell went down with that broken collarbone.
Yeah. So what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do with McFadden? Do you think they should get rid of McFadden?
You know what? I think that if they can trade out of that number 1 spot and get a lower first and pick up a second in the meantime, I don't think there's any reason to move Darren McFadden, because that gives us still at least a little bit of star power. And I really look forward to the idea of McFadden and Terrell Pryor running the read option. I think that's just an absolute beast backfield waiting to happen. Now, whether they do it or not, I don't know. But you got to still retain a little bit of star power. You got to retain something that's going to at least get 40,000 people out to the Oakland Coliseum to come watch him play. Darren McFadden, in the correct scheme, not that stupid zone blocking BS crap that, Greg Dirtnap brought to us last year.
Horrible.
In a power run scheme, to go back 2 years ago, that game that we went and saw live, Darren McFadden dominated that football game, and he was at the time, until he went down with that Lisfranc injury, he was the best running back in football. I mean, there was no doubt. I mean, he was on his way to a potential MVP type season. So, yeah, I think you got to retain a guy like that, especially if you're going to bring along a young quarterback, especially when he doesn't hardly have anybody to throw to except Marcel Reese, because our leading receiver last year, Brandon Myers, is gone.
I think Darius Moore is slowly on the rise.
He's slowly on the rise, but he's not a number one. He's not He's not somebody that's going to be reliable. And, Osbury, maybe, I hope he comes along. He's certainly got the speed and the skill set of a wide receiver in a tight end body. And so, he could be that guy. But as of right now, really, it's McFadden and Reese. Those are your two best passing options. I hate to say it. And so we'll see. We'll see. To answer your question, no, I don't think you get rid of Darren McFadden unless you can't move out of that number one spot and you you can get a second for McFadden. I don't know, man. It might be something to think about. I don't know who you're going to hand the rock to. Goodson's gone. Reese is such an awesome player. He's probably my favorite Raider right now, but he can't be a 3-down back. He's not somebody that you want to, No. I love him out of the fullback spot because he creates so many mismatches, especially when you move him in motion and get him in the slot and all that good stuff. So, I don't know. Or do you draft then a running back? And if you trade him, then what's the point if you're using a draft pick? So I don't know. I think it's a good question, but I'd say the odds are he's not going anywhere.
Do you lose any sleep over the Raiders losing Goodson?
No, not at all. I think that the only reason that Mike Goodson had any success in that with our team this year when McFadden went down was because he was a zone block guy. That and I'm not even counting the fact that he couldn't. Well, I'm not going to say he couldn't hang on the football. He's had fumble issues, but ultimately the reason that he was there was because he was a zone block guy. Well, now that the zone block is getting scrapped, there's no reason to have him. So. You got to bring in guys that are one-cut runners. That's what you got to have in the backfield. Goodson wasn't that guy, so, let him go. And really, he's not going to be the starter ahead of Darren McFadden. So that was out of all the guys that we've lost in this offseason, that one hurt my feelings the least.
Yeah, I didn't lose any sleep, that's for sure. That's for sure.
All right, let's get to some free agents.
I'm tweeting real quick. Nick Diaz definitely wins the wardrobe aspect of this fight so far. He comes out all kind of Tyson, bare bones, hoodie, shirt, and jeans. Tyson needs to come out in just his shorts. But Nick Diaz, bare minimum, like just walking off the street ready to fight. St. Pierre's wearing this full-on karate gi and a headband and all this kind of stuff, and man, I'm such a
Is he wearing a Speedo?
I'm a Mad Max guy, dude. This is in Canada, in front of his home crowd and stuff. And oh man, I'll be so happy if Diaz just clocks this guy, because Diaz is from Stockton, right?
I was just gonna say we forgot to mention that he's a fellow Bay Area or at least Northern California.
Yeah. We've been to Stockton many times, and Stockton's, besides that, in Sacramento and maybe Visalia.
Our great grandfather resided in Stockton, California.
Yeah, it's the armpit of California, that kind of whole area and stuff. And so it's like, man, for Nick Diaz to be able to come up here and clock this Canadian, nothing against Canadians. They're really nice people. They let me drink in the
we
country
got
when I
like
was
6
19.
or 7 Canadian listeners. So
yeah,
all our friends in the Great White North, eh?
I'm going for Diaz all the way. I don't want to get too sidetracked, but I'll be watching. All right. They brought in a couple guys. They brought in Hunter, defensive end, Aieva? I can't say his name.
No.
My Aieva?
What the linebackers? Cooking.
Is that the best part about him?
Maivia, the nephew of Dwayne The Rock Johnson, baby. I can't wait to see this guy.
Here's
That's
the problem.
Awesome.
Here's the problem. Is that the best part about this guy, that his uncle's The Rock? Or do you think he's actually going to produce?
I think he played in Cleveland, and Cleveland doesn't rock. Cleveland sucks more than, or as much as the Raiders have, although Jimmy Haslam, the new owner, has probably got him on the right track. But, no, I think this guy got lost in Cleveland being Cleveland. I think that he is certainly an every down linebacker He's going to complement Nick Roach, who's going to take over the middle linebacker spot with, as we all expect, Rolando McClain is going to get cut once they get to the right point in the offseason to where it makes most sense against the salary cap. I think this guy's going to be great. I think that losing Philip Wheeler, that's probably the one that all of us were a little disappointed in because we all loved Philip Wheeler. He came in, he was scrappy. He and Omar Gaither were really, and Burris, I guess, were really the highlights of our linebacking core, and we were all kind of drawn to Wheeler because he would just fly around the football this year. And, he got a big, fat contract, and it was nothing the Raiders were going to ever be able to touch. So, he was going to go. There wasn't anything we could do about it. So the fact that they brought in Kaluka Maivea and Nick Roach to shore up that linebacking core with the loss of Wheeler, I think it's a good move. I think it's a great move. I think that he's unproven. He's one of those guys that just doesn't have enough of a track record to really judge, but he's certainly got star power behind him. He's certainly got a name behind him. And, so that's – again, it's entertainment, right? So if we see Rocky prowl on the sidelines one day, in the Oakland Coliseum rooting on his nephew, hey, nothing wrong with that. Him and Ice Cube hanging out, man, I'd love it. I love the Raiders sideline.
Finally, The Rock has come to the black hole. Oh. Murph, I'm going to read you a list of, I think we printed this list off yesterday. So far, we've lost Hayward Bay, Michael Huff, Dave Toffelson, Philip Wheeler, and Desmond Bryant. Of those guys, who do you think makes the biggest impact? Whose
Phillip
impact
Wheeler,
we're going to feel the most that they're gone?
Oh, Philip Wheeler, easily. I mean, we lose a big presence in the middle with Desmond Bryant being gone, but we've already nothing's official yet. Richard Seymour hasn't signed anywhere, but Richard Seymour's not coming back to the Oakland Raiders. I think we knew that halfway through last season after he got hurt. Yeah. Tommy Kelly with his inflated contract, I think that it's probably a 100-to-1 shot whether he comes back and plays. So losing Desmond Bryant, who is a rotational player at the defensive tackle position, I think that that guy's more famous for his mug shot than he is really for what he did on the field. So we're losing so many guys out of the middle of the defensive line that, I don't think we're going to really see a huge impact of losing Desmond Bryant. I think that it's got to be Wheeler. I mean, Huffy, I've always been a fan of Michael Huff. You and I play Madden, and, Michael Huff's a great free safety in Madden. Him and Tyron Reggie are beast in Madden. But in real life, Huffy's a pretty decent corner, and he's a pretty decent free safety, but he certainly didn't command the amount of money, that he was getting. He's one of those sentimental guys. We've all been Huffy fans since he was drafted out of Texas, and really, 2 years ago when he caught that interception in Houston, sealing the victory for the Oakland Raiders. The week, that Al Davis died. That was an incredibly emotional moment for us. Not only for that team, obviously. Hugh Jackson broke down in tears in the postgame. That was a big deal for us as fans, and so Huffy will always be tied, in my eyes, to that moment, and he's going to be one of those guys that, like Charles Woodson, I don't care wherever you go and finish off your career, you're always going to be a Raider to me. So, I'm going to certainly miss Michael Huff, but as far as on the field goes, I don't think it's going to compare to the level of impact that Philip Wheeler had for the Raiders in 2012.
Yeah, Wheeler, he was a Raider. Bryant, they were Raiders. I don't know if they'll always be Raiders, kind of like Huff was and stuff, and maybe even Hayward Bay, but they were good guys. Of the guys who are unsigned free agents, and this list may be wrong, but, Khalif Barnes, Carlisle, Andre Carter, Omar Gaither, Matt Giordano, Goodson's gone, Derek Hagan, Jacilio Hansen, Shane Lechler, Matt Leinart, Mike Mitchell, Myers, I believe he's already signed with the Giants.
Pretty close,
Seymour, Shaughnessy's with the Cardinals, and then Shante Spencer. Anybody there that, we have to keep, or all those guys pretty much expendable at this point with the rebuild?
Well, I think that, Mike Mitchell came in, although he's listed as a strong safety, he came in and played free while Huffy moved up to corner after all the injuries. And, Mike Mitchell's one of those guys that he's had flashes of brilliance throughout his career. You know, I can remember a couple of games against the Chargers where they had him matched up in man coverage against Antonio Gates, and Antonio Gates was held to like one catch for, less than 10 yards. Mike Mitchell has done some phenomenal things in his career, but he's also had some pretty bad games too. So I think that Mike Mitchell might be a guy that, as a backup player, or, right now, I mean, who are our starting safeties? I mean, Matt Giordano's gone. Tyvon's the only one that we got back there. So maybe, it's a guy that you can bring in for, relatively inexpensive, since he's kind of an unproven player still in Mike Mitchell. So I'd kind of like to see him. I think Derek Hagan out of the wide receiver spot provides a pretty good target, again, for potentially a young quarterback. And Terrell Pryor, he's a guy that he's not real fast, but he can certainly get open. He can get separated on routes, and he's got pretty sure hands. So that's someone that I think is important. Omar Gaither, I thought, did a phenomenal job for our football team at middle linebacker in the absence of Rolando McClain last year in the latter part of the season. That guy, you want to talk about a smart football player, that guy could read an offense and get his body in the right position on the regular, and that's something that Rolando can't. If you watch Rolando McClain play, he's constantly out of position. He's constantly out of his lane. He's constantly in the wrong spot to make a tackle. Omar Gaither, that was not the case. When you looked at 53 play, he was always in the right spot. Yeah, he didn't have the physical talents of a Rolando McClain, but if your body's not in the right spot, then it doesn't matter how fast you are or what your ability is as an athlete. And then the last one I'm going to touch on, I think, has got to be Shane Leckler. And that's another guy that when you look at the long, storied history of the Oakland Raiders special teams, this is a guy that if we can bring him back for a fair amount of money, I think it's very important for the psyche of the football team and the psyche of the fan base. Not that the psyche of the fan base is going to win you games or not, but again, to keep people coming to the games, you want to have some star power. And good, bad, or indifferent, our punter is a star. Our kicker is a star. So if he's willing to take reasonable money at, I forget how old he is. Was he 35, 36, whatever it is?
He's up there, man. I think he's
up
post
there.
35 for sure.
But you could punt till you're 45. I mean, you know what I mean? So if he's willing to take a fair amount of money, that's a guy I'd love to see come back and finish his career as an Oakland Raider. He's the last player on this football team. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. If I can't remember if Janikowski was there too for a Super Bowl year. I think it's just Leckler, though. Leckler's the last guy from the Super Bowl against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So the last guy, the last remnant of a successful Raider football team. I would like to see him return and finish where he started and be there for the rebirth of the Oakland Raiders that we know is coming in the next 2 years.
That would be pretty amazing, Murph. I would love to see it as well, but I don't see McKenzie holding out that olive branch. I think he's coming in saying none of these guys are my guys, and every one of them is cuttable and stuff. Real quick, Murph,
and one other thing I forgot to mention too was that, and really I might want to now after realizing this and remembering this, I may want to back up on my point. We have an absolute rock star in a young punter named Marquette King.
It's true.
This kid is an absolute boomer. He's going to be relatively inexpensive, and he's young. He's like 24 years old, so he'll be there for the next 10 years like Leckler was. So I may want to back up on that point a little bit. It may be time to invest in Marquette King and let Shane Leckler go and unfortunately part ways with him.
First round definitely goes to GSP. He had top control the whole time. Diaz had guard at the bottom and stuff, but Pierre was just all over him, man. And it'll be interesting to see what round 2 holds with this fight. Going forward, Murph, Geno Smith's been talked about a lot with the Raiders, and we can probably try to wrap up the Raider talk here pretty quick.
This is the Raider Degos for the sports.
We could go all the way on the Raiders and stuff.
Oh, my gosh.
I ain't going to be happy or sad either way if they take Geno Smith. If they take him, I don't think it's the worst pick in the world. If they don't take him, I don't think it's a big loss as either and stuff, Looking at his tapes, looking at his pro day, I mean, he balled out. And Carson's old. I'm not quite sure Palmer's the definitive replacement yet. Is there some better quarterbacks coming down the pike in the future? Yeah, for sure. But it's uncertain at this point, A lot of guys say, let's go with Palmer and stuff, and he's still a good quarterback. It's the team around him that's not very good. Do you think we should take Geno, especially after seeing what McKenzie's been doing with the roster and stuff?
I think ultimately that it's all this is posturing. I think all this is just, Reggie McKenzie putting it out there that the Raiders are interested. So somebody like the Eagles or the Cardinals or, is it the Cardinals or whoever else? There's been a few teams that have been linked to interest in Geno Smith. And so I think that it's ultimately just coming down to Reggie expressing interest so someone else will want to jump up. Who knows? Maybe even the New York Jets jump up and grab Geno Smith. I don't think that that's ultimately going to be our pick. I think it's going to be more a guy like Sharif Floyd out of Florida. I think that, again, going back to all the three guys that we're losing out of the interior D-line, we're going to have a body in there. And, Star Lotulelei, unfortunately, has got a heart condition, and, prayers to him, and hopefully he's, finds healing there and he's able to continue on with his football career. But in the meantime, it looks to be that Sharif Floyd is the best defensive tackle in the draft, and that's probably going to be where the Raiders go with it, and they could probably get him lower than the third pick. So I think the Raiders are going to trade out of that spot and target that. But to answer your question about Geno Smith, I like Geno Smith. I wasn't sold on him. And looking at the conference that he plays in and looking to what the opponents were of West Virginia throughout the year, yeah, we were all dazzled by the numbers that he put up, especially in the one game. I forget who it was against, but he threw like 8 touchdowns and like 500 yards or something. So that while that is impressive, I'm even more impressed with him as a man. He really conducts himself well, and you know what I mean. Like he's a smart guy. And that's what you want. You want a smart football player.
Especially a quarterback.
Position,
the one position
you know what I mean.
Want,
like you want a smart guy. And look at what makes Brady good. What makes Manning good. What makes these guys good is that their ability to read the offense, make quick decisions. Not always rely on their physical talents, but rely on their brain, on their football brain. And I think Geno Smith's got it. So, like you, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they drafted him. But I think ultimately for the overall success of the team, you got so much tied up in quarterbacks. How many draft picks and how much money do we have tied up in Carson Palmer and frickin' Terrell Pryor? We got a first round, a second round, and a third round. Is that right? Yeah. All tied up in 2 guys. It's like, sheesh. I mean, eventually, at a certain point, you got to say, okay, are we willing to invest another first-round pick into a third quarterback? I don't know if this is the draft to do that. Last year, if we could have grabbed an RG3 or an Andrew Luck, heck yeah, that would have been the great time to do it, even Russell Wilson later on. But for this year, for this draft, for that guy, I don't know if that's the answer for this team right now. And certainly I think the Raiders are much better served trading down, getting a pick or 2 additionally, and then continue to build. Because right now we need players.
All right, we got to take a commercial break. We'll come back. We'll touch on the news stories. I think we got 4 or 5 news stories to touch on. We'll give an update on Diaz versus Pierre. You're listening to the Sports Degos at the Sports Degos on Twitter, thesportsdegos.com.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
How many times has this happened to you? You have a bass and you're trying to find an exciting new way to prepare it for the dinner table. You could scale the bass, remove the bass, tail, head, and bones, and serve the fish as you would any other fish dinner. But why bother now that you can use Ronco's amazing new kitchen tool, the Super Bass-O-Matic 13? Yes, fish eaters, the days of troublesome scaling, cutting, gutting are over because Super Bass-O-Matic 13 is the tool that lets you use the bass with no fish, no waste, and without scaling, cutting, or gutting. Here's how it works. Catch a bass, remove the hook, and drop the bass. That's right, the whole bass into the Super Bass-O-Matic 13. Now, just adjust the control dial so that the bass is blended just the way you like it. Yes, it's that simple.
Wow, that's terrific bass.
We've got bass here. Fast, easy, ready to port. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 comes with 10 interchangeable rotors, a 9-month guarantee, and a booklet. 1,001 ways to harness your bass. Super Bass-O-Matic 13 works great on sunfish, perch, sole, and other small aquatic creatures. That's Super Bass-O-Matic 13. It's clean, simple, and after 5 or 10 fish, it gets to be quite a rush. Super Bass-O-Matic 13. You're never gonna have to scale, cut, or gut again. Just send $49.95 to the Sports Degos, care of the Dago Dungeon, Oakland, California.
Welcome back to the Sports Degos with Sonny and the Murph. All right, Murph. What were we lying about before we went to commercial break, Murph?
Well, we don't lie about anything, but we were certainly discussing at length the Oakland Raiders because apparently that's our wheelhouse there. The Raider Degos.
Yeah, so Reggie McKenzie, if you're listening, we just basically laid out what we should do with all of our facts straight.
Twitter GMs. I love that you coined that term.
I didn't coin it. It's been coined all week and stuff, man. It's pretty.
Oh,
pretty
has
funny.
it? Oh, okay. I love it. That's a good. Hey, we got any update on the fight?
Okay, so round 2 ended. Pierre again was pretty much in control, but man, he can't submit Diaz, dude. Diaz's ground defense is phenomenal. I don't think Diaz has a cut on him, but Pierre's been in control the whole time. And if you've ever watched any of Pierre's fights, he usually gets on guys pretty quick and ends them. But Diaz is a warrior, man. And so then Diaz finally gets up. And the second round starts taunting him a little bit and stuff, putting his hands down and stuff. And you can't not like this Diaz guy and stuff, you know? I mean, if you're a Raiders fan, you got to root for a guy like Diaz and stuff. You know, he's cool. So, yeah, third round, more of the same. Pierre trying to take him to the ground. Diaz trying to stand up and avoiding takedown. You know, Diaz is a Gracie. You know, he's a Gracie black belt.
Yeah.
He's a Gracie fighter. And so those guys are the master of working on their backs and stuff, you know? And so it's pretty cool watching that old school kind of mixed martial arts and stuff. All right, Murph, moving forward, we got still a lot of stuff to talk about. We got about 4 or 5 topics for our news stories. Right off the bat, Lakers tearing it up, just rocking and rolling, and then all of a sudden, Kobe gets hurt. Not only does he get hurt, he gets hurt on a quote-unquote controversial play. So number 1, do you think that play was on purpose? Number 2, do Lakers still get in the playoffs?
Well, I think, ultimately, no. Do I think the play was intentional? No. And, I think that it was unfortunate. It was was it a play that should have been called? Absolutely, yes. But, them's the breaks. I hate to say that, but, in sports, I mean, injuries occur and you can't control them. You can do your best to try to keep guys safe, but it's just an unfortunate part of, physical play. So the answer to your question is that, do the Lakers make the playoffs? And I think ultimately it comes down to how quick can Kobe come back from this. His wife tweeted a picture of his ankle, and gosh, it was just brutal.
It was big, dude.
Did you see that thing?
It was a grapefruit, man.
My gosh! I mean, that thing's swollen up. So I mean, man, they were on a tear. They just got back into the 8th playoff spot. And look, you and I are diehard Warrior fans. We are not Laker fans, but and If there was any incarnation of the Los Angeles Lakers that I would root for, it's kind of the old man now Kobe. The league is better when the Lakers are good, much like the Oakland Raiders. When the league is better when the Raiders are good. The Lakers are just a legacy team, just an absolute storied tradition in their success, and so I think that it's good when the Lakers are in the mix. Plus, there's no one better. If they were to match up, with the Heat in the finals, then it would be Kobe and LeBron. So I secretly in my Warrior heart is kind of rooting for those guys to at least make it and see what they could do. Of course, if they matched up against the Golden State Warriors, I'd hope they get trounced. But all that said, if he can come back quick enough, I think they can keep in there. I think Gasol's back now, so that really certainly helps their cause. Dwight Howard is finally starting to get it a little bit. He's certainly putting up much better numbers. So there's enough star power on this team to certainly carry them in Kobe's absence. But they're going to need Kobe to ultimately make it and certainly to win in the postseason.
Yeah, I'd say 100%. And you mentioned the Miami Heat. How can we not talk about what they're doing with their winning streak? I believe it's at 21 right now. As much as I can't stand the Heat, you got to respect that. Or do you? Is this what they should have been doing 2 years ago when this team was assembled? Is this maybe a year, 2 years too late? And now that they're finally doing it, it's like, well, you should have been doing this the whole time. Like why why were you not doing this before and stuff, or is it a lesson in chemistry, that it's always about chemistry when it comes to a team. It doesn't matter how many good guys you have and stuff, they got to be able to play together. But, I don't watch the games. I watch a lot of the highlights and stuff, Sports Center's just on 24/7, and it looks like they're just gelling, I mean, they give each other the look, they know where to go. It's pretty phenomenal what's going on and how many games they've won and how they're winning as well. I mean, they're kind of winning hands down, I think they've had a couple close games in the fourth, but for the most part, did I say most part?
Most
for the
part.
most part.
How's that Coors Tall Boy treating you?
This is the fun thing about drinking beer, and you have to talk a lot and stuff. You can kind of
right.
tell, when you're going through. You never know where you're going to mess up.
You tell when we get into the second hour that it gets a little slower and a little sloppier.
Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting to watch. It's pretty fun. The Blackhawks, I think they came out, gosh, I want to say they won close to 20 games as well in hockey. It's impressive. Is it the most impressive win streak of all time? Is it the most in basketball, Murph? What's the longest streak, winning streak in the NBA?
Well, the Lakers hold that streak in their 71-72 season. They finished 69-13, and they won 33 games in a row. So the Heat still have a pretty significant number of wins to string together before they reach the Los Angeles Lakers. The Houston Rockets of 2007 and 8, believe it or not, won 22 games in a row, and then the Heat are currently sitting at third at 21. One that I was really surprised is that if you remember famously, the Chicago Bulls of 1995, they won 72 games and only lost 10. I think it's one of the best, win-loss records in an 82-game NBA season, and they only won 18 in a row. So that was surprising to me. I thought that they would have been much, much higher considering the amount of wins they had that year. But so the Miami Heat are sitting again at number 3. So can they do it? 12 games to tie the Los Angeles Lakers of 1971. When we look at the Heat schedule, here's their list of their opponents. I'm going to give you an opponent. You give me a win or a loss. Next game, at Toronto.
Win.
At Boston.
Should be a win, but that's a good game.
That's close, right? Okay. So there's one team so far that can maybe end the streak. At Cleveland.
Win.
Versus Detroit.
Win.
Versus Charlotte.
Win.
At Orlando.
Win.
At Chicago, potentially with Derrick Rose coming back.
Yeah, I say either way a win because the chemistry and is he the same player? There's so many question marks there,
All right. At New Orleans.
The New Orleans Pelicans? So stupid. Gotta say win there too.
At San Antonio.
That's the game. When's that game? What date?
That is Sunday, the 31st of March.
That's the game.
You bet you that's going to be. Of course, it's marked for NBA TV. We'll see if that one makes its way to.
Yeah, probably only be on prime time. But a lot of people say that the Spurs are the best matchup in the finals for the Heat as well because of how they match up. So that'll be an interesting game.
I think so. Then they go. So we're working our way to 33. So then we got New York Knicks at home.
That's a good game.
That's a good game.
The Knicks have kind of fallen off, though, but that's a losable game.
That's a losable game. All right, then at Charlotte.
Winnable.
Win, and then number 33 would be Philadelphia at home. Philadelphia currently sits at 10th in the East.
So basically 3 games. Boston, New York, and San Antonio.
Yeah, Boston, New York, San Antonio, I think are the best shots at it. Boston's coming up soon. That's an ESPN game. That's this Monday. So that'll be something to pay attention to. In the absence of Monday Night Football, it will be certainly time to tune in to ESPN and watch that game. It's at Boston. It's at the TD Garden. They're going to be going nuts. That those Boston fans, those chatterheads, they're going to know what's on the line.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to be rooting big time for the for the Celtics to knock off the Miami Heat and put an end to this streak.
That'll be big. Moving forward, Murph. Well, real quick, on winning streaks in all of sports. I thought it was pretty interesting. Michael Schumacher won 7 Grand Prix in a row. Richard Petty won 10 races in a row. Byron Nelson, a golfer, Murph, he won 11 tournaments in a row.
Wow,
Tiger,
that's impressive.
Tiger won 7. So there's your comparison. The Buffalo Bandits, indoor lacrosse, won 22 games in a row.
Famously.
Sure. I don't know what's more embarrassing.
There must be like a movie about those guys.
The Norfolk Admirals, the AHL, won 32 games.
Hey, how about we work some major sports?
I'm getting there. No,
I know we're called the sports Degos, but not the obscure sports Degos. You know, the
San
Canadian
Diego
women's
Shockers
volleyball team won 87
indoor
games
soccer
in a
team?
row in 1912. Yeah, great.
There's a horse who won 56 races.
You talking about WNBA horse or no?
Oh, here we go. Martina Navratilova.
There you go.
74 matches in a row. That's impressive.
That's pretty beast. But those are individual sports. Let's get to some team stuff.
Julio Cesar Chavez, 87 bouts. UConn women's basketball. There we go.
Back to horses.
90 games in a row. That is insane. You got to be kidding me. UCLA Bruins won 88 straight in the 70s. DeSalle.
Oh, yeah, that's under John Wood.
De La Salle.
That's the
De La
Wizard
Salle
of
High School
Westwood there.
football.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah, De La Salle High School football. They won 151 games in a row.
you go.
That
Speaking
school
of
in
Northern
California. And then the number 1 is Jan Hager Khan. What's that? Squash. He won 555 matches. He won 555 matches. Now here's the problem with that.
Even squash in the show.
Even though you won those,
listeners,
are you going to brag about it?
Sports Degos, and you got to bring up squash during a UFC fight? Sheesh, yeah, riveting radio.
Do you brag about that if you won? Like, hey, baby, I won 555 matches. In what?
Oh.
Squash? Hey, I got to go wash my hair. All right, moving forward, Murph, moving forward. It's baseball season. Well, kind of. It's spring training.
Amen. A's,
we're A's fans. They played to a 13-13 tie today. Oh, boy. I'm trying to watch the fight. I'm trying to drink my third course.
Must have been playing the Angels.
It's bad. They're playing the Gangels.
The
So, do we... Does spring training matter? By the way, the 5th round of this fight just started. This has been a phenomenal fight. Come on, Diaz, pull it up. The spring training in baseball, is it comparative to preseason in football? Is it something that you pay attention to, or is it like, okay, spring training's coming, so obviously, baseball season's right around the corner, or do you follow it much?
Yes and no. I think that as a fan, spring training means very little, but it's huge for the teams. I mean, it's very dissimilar to preseason football or even preseason basketball, for that matter. That baseball is such a diverse sport that you really have to get to know the depth of your baseball team, because that's what ultimately is going to win you a championship or keep you competitive throughout a 42 game schedule. So, or 62. What is it? Gosh, shame on me. 42,
162.
Right?
162.
62. All right.
Yeah, it's 162.
So,
come on, Murph. How many fat tires
have
you
you
had? How many fat tires have you had?
Apparently, I don't know, too many to remember 162.
Seven too many.
Yeah, I mean baseball's a very long season. It's a marathon, and you have to have depth, especially when you get into the postseason, and especially when you're looking at your pitching rotations and the depth of your mid relief and all those good things. So it's incredibly important to baseball to have a lengthy spring training. But to us, all we see are the stars, right? All we see is Josh Hamilton. All we see is Josh Reddick. All we see is Cespedes. Those are the guys that mean something to us, and those are the guys that we're going to be following day in, day out. And when we decide to look at the box score, so the the lesser-known players and the prospects, and a lot of these guys are going to end up back in the minor leagues and things like that. It really doesn't mean a lot to us. Although I got to say, spring training, I lived in Florida for a pretty good long period of time, and it was really fun to kind of follow the Grapefruit League and, the facilities that they have down there in Fort Myers and, all that stuff is really pretty cool, and it's a really fun environment to go see a baseball game because you're seeing MLB. You're seeing, not only the big-name guys, but you're seeing the prospects and things like that, and in kind of like a minor league environment. So it's pretty fun, and it's a cool dynamic, but ultimately for what it's going to mean going into next year, I don't think Andrew Golly. Yeah, one too many fat tires. I don't think Albert Pujols is in danger of losing his position, on the Los Angeles Angels. So, we're going to know that we're going to see him in the lineup, and we're going to see what he can do going into this season. So ultimately, yes, it's important to the teams, but no, as fans, it's kind of fun to pay attention to, but it's really not going to make a huge determination as far as what we see in the upcoming season.
Are we going to see a bunch of bearded Bernie dancers?
Oh, man.
5 months or so?
That's the best.
That's phenomenal. That's what I'm stoked about most for the preseason.
Bernie
is his beard, man. His freaking beard is killer, dude. Love it. Love it.
Yeah, there's a lot. The A's have never been short on character, and going all the way back to the 70s and through the 80s and the glory years of the late 80s, early 90s, and then the early 2000s with the the Giambi brothers and and Chavez and all those great players and Hudson and Mulder and Zito, and then now as we get into the modern days with guys like Josh Reddick and Coco Crisp and Cespedes and Grant Balfour and all of them, man. I follow a lot of the A's on Twitter, and man, there's some good follows. I follow most of the Raiders too, but I got to tell you that the A's are fun to follow. Josh Donaldson is a great follow. Brendan Moss is a great follow. Jamal Weeks doesn't really say a lot, but man, if you follow it, I would recommend anybody listening to us follow the A's on Twitter. Their baseball players are always kind of nutty anyways, and they certainly don't hold back when it comes to Twitter. And this is going to be a fun team. It's a young team, as the A's always are. And we talked to, or you brought up, gelling earlier when you're talking about the Miami Heat, how it took them a couple of years. When you look at the teams that we're going to be competing against, especially in the Los Angeles Angels, that's a star power pack.
You mean the AL West Yankees? The Angels?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, that's all they do is to load up on the stars, paying big fat contracts, and what's that gotten you over the in recent history? So, I got to say that I think our team is certainly in a position to where they're gelling more than those star powered teams. I think that the A's are going to be in a better position to compete ultimately this year. And when you look at the outfield, Cespedes, Coco Crisp, and Josh Reddick, come on, man, that's beast. I think the A's are going to be awesome.
The fight just ended, Josh. Murph. I just gave out your real name.
Oh no!
I'm gonna go to it right now, real quick. The quick audio.
All right.
Diaz inside the octagon neutralizes attack and fought quite a bit with him standing up on the feet.
Almost 13 minutes.
It's pretty obvious that Pierre won. He was in control pretty much the whole entire time, but didn't submit Diaz. Diaz was never rocked.
Does Diaz look beat up at all?
Nah, Pierre looks more beat up than Diaz does, dude. It was just that Pierre was the aggressor, for 5 straight rounds, Pierre just was more aggressive on top of him. But man, I was more impressed with the ground game of Diaz than I was with Pierre, because most of the time Pierre just gets on top of guys and just destroys them. Diaz would just get up and his hands at his side and stuff. He kind of has that unorthodox style. He's just a thug and stuff. Just a cool dude, and hung in there, man. He was bleeding, Diaz, but so was Pierre. But Pierre was just taking him to the ground. But even though he didn't do much on the ground, he still took him to the ground more than not, But here's the cool thing, too. Everybody thinks Diaz is this thug, but at the end of the fight, he went over to Pierre and raised his hand and stuff, So here's the
Bumper has the official decision.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 5 rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards for a decision. All 3 judges scored this contest 50-45 for the winner by unanimous decision, Degos, and still the undisputed UFC welterweight champion of the world, George.
Unanimous decision. Yeah, I'd have to agree with that after watching. He was the aggressor. That stinks, though. I was hoping for Diaz, but
yeah,
Pierre couldn't knock him out. Went toe to toe. I bet you there's going to be a rematch because it was a pretty darn good fight. All right, moving forward. I'm going to read you some odds. Here what they are.
Okay.
The first one is 4-1. The second one is 9-1, and the third one is 10-1. What am I talking about?
Oh, you got to be talking about the Masters.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to assume that's going to be the odds of the players coming in. And
give me the top
I don't
3.
know where Tiger's going to rank on that, but I certainly hope it's what was the last number you read?
10-1.
10-1, 9-1, and 4-1. I'm going to say, I don't know if Tiger's done enough. I mean, he did win the last tournament, the Cadillac. I don't know if that's enough to get him into that top slot. So I'm going to say Tiger Woods 9-1.
All right, this is from goldodds.com. Tiger, 4-1.
No
leads
kidding.
the field. Rory McIlroy, 9-1. Hefty, 10-1. And then it takes a pretty big jump after that. It goes down to Luke Donald, 25-1. Westwood, 25. Adam, 25. Bubba Watson at 30-1. It's Tiger versus the field, Murph. I don't know about you. I like Tiger. I think when the Lakers are doing good, when the Raiders are doing good, it's almost the equivalent of Tiger doing good. Golf needs him, man. As much as everyone wants to bag on him and hate him and say these, the golf boys are cool and stuff, but
we love
there's still there's an affinity for Tiger, and so it's Tiger versus the field. What do you take?
Man, he's had such a huge amount of success in this tournament that I gotta take Tiger. And I'm not a huge. You're a golfer. I'm not a golfer. But obviously, I'm a sports nut.
Whoa,
There are
I wouldn't say golfer. I'd say I attempt at it quite a bit.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, but you play the sport actively. Or you do participate in it. And I don't. I'm terrible. I like to drive the beer cart. I mean, I'm just not a good golfer at all. Never have been. But but the Masters is one of my favorite tournaments to watch. There are a few sporting events that, I'm not a huge auto racing guy, but I like to watch the Daytona 500. I like to watch the Indianapolis 500. I'm not a huge horse racing guy, but I like to watch the Kentucky Derby. And here's another one. I'm not a huge golf guy, but I love to watch the majors, and I love the Masters. The Masters, just the how scenic Augusta is, and how immaculately it's kept, and just the beauty of it, and the spirit of it, and the tradition, and I really dig watching the Masters, and I really dig watching Tiger win that tournament. And he's just had such a great level of success there in the past that I think that not only would it just be a great story, which you and I always root for the story, we're suckers for the story in sports, but I think that it could, this is a chance for him to kind of resurrect his career. He's finally getting back on track after all the turmoil that the guy's been through. And it's well documented. No need to rehash any of that gossip. But I think this is a chance for him to reestablish himself as a dominant player on the tour and in probably his favorite tournament to do it in. And so I'm going to take Tiger. How about you? What do you got? You got Tiger or the field?
I'm not going to go Tiger just yet. A lot of young guns in the field. A lot of guys still unproven. And I don't know if Tiger's proved himself just yet either. He won the tournament. He looked good. His putting was great. But I'm not going to, Steve Stricker, by the way, is 50-1. The guy who gave Tiger those great putting tips. I can't bet on Tiger. If I had to bet, the farm, I'd bet on somebody else. I bet the field versus Tiger. But the point is, the thing that I like is that it's Tiger versus the field. And how cool would it be to see him, 2 strokes, 3 strokes off the lead, potentially winning the tournament, showing up on Sunday in that red shirt at Augusta, like, oh, that's golf, That's golf nowadays anyways, It'd be pretty exciting.
Well, let me ask you this. He's won the Masters 4 times. Okay, so this would be his 5th. He's got 14 majors. Okay, that would put him to 15 if he were to win this. You think he gets to Jack Nicklaus at 18?
They just did a. I heard
37 years old. Tiger is.
But I think Nicklaus was. He was 37. He was 37 too when he won 14 though. They both it was eerie. They both played in about the same amount of tournaments. They both won the same amount of tournaments, and they both had the exact same amount of Masters at the same age. It was creepy weird how close it was. So he's on track still, even after all the hubbub and stuff. But it'll be interesting, man. It'll be fun to watch for sure. Murph, real quick, I don't want to hash it too much. We got to get out of here. The Tuck rule. Just give me a short answer. Is it better if they leave it, or is it worse? Or is it better if they remove it, I guess? Because if they remove it, it's a slap in the face. If they leave it, we still know we got screwed, but at least they didn't admit they were wrong about it, What's the best result for this situation?
Neither one. They both suck, and it's sucked from day one. It's going to continue to suck, and despite whatever decision they choose to make, it's going to suck after. This is the worst. Look, we have a long storied history of controversial calls, questionable calls, potential, conspiracies against our football team based on Al Davis's interaction with the NFL, starting with the merger going way back when, to him suing the league and all that. And whether you choose to believe in the conspiracies or not, at the end, the bottom line is that when you watch the NFL Network's top 10 most questionable calls, like 4 of them are the friggin' Raiders. Like it's just a matter of fact that there are questionable calls that happen against our football team. This is way up there with the immaculate deception. This is either 1 or 2 on the list. This not only kept the Raiders from going and potentially winning the Super Bowl, it kept the Raiders from retaining John Gruden for a long period of time, and it enabled the Patriots to kick off their dynasty, kick off Tom Brady's career, and he wouldn't be married to that supermodel if it wasn't for that snowy day in Foxborough. Okay? So there is a lot of ramifications and a lot of repercussions for this bad call that happened on the field. I think that even if you repeal it, even if you change it, I don't think that in our mind, in our eyes as Raider fans, any of that is going to change. It's going to be bull crap no matter how you slice it. It would be, do you want to see it get called correctly in the future so some other fan base or some other team doesn't have to deal with it? Yeah. So I guess if I had to latch on to anything, it would be that yes, I'd want to see them repeal it so that it can get called correctly in the future. But from a Raider perspective, it doesn't matter what you do. It's all junk.
I mean, to me, I'd almost rather them not repeal it. Because if they repeal it, it's like, yeah, we screwed up, Oakland. Sorry. Man, really? Oh, that would kill me, dude. Like we've all known. We all know. We all know it was a junk call. I just watched it the other day again and stuff, and it's so obvious it was a junk call. But if they come back and repeal that, oh my gosh, I think there's riots. Potential riots. All right, Murph, we're way over time here. We're pushing 110 minutes, and we didn't even get to announce our special guest, but we're gonna have to bump him, and I feel bad. We're not gonna be able to talk to him. Shannon Sharp.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, Shannon Sharp. He was scheduled to call in. Yeah, the very quiet tight end for the old Denver Donkeys. He was going to call in and just share his thoughts about Denver and talk about how great the Broncos are and stuff and how great they're going to be this year. And I was really looking forward to it, Murph. I was, especially because last week we failed with Phillip Rivers. We were gonna get all over that. And then I was like, all right, we feel bad about that. Feel bad to our fan base. So this week, we really wanted to hit it hard and go after Shannon Sharpe and get him on the show. And I feel bad, man.
I really wanted to get his insight on scoring the only touchdown in that AFC playoff win against our beloved Oakland Raiders. I really wanted to climb into his mind and, see not only how he felt scoring that touchdown, but see, how it felt watching his big fat defensive tackle fall on Rich Gannon's shoulder, breaking it and ruining our chances to go to the Super Bowl. We really wanted to check in with Shannon. Sorry, we don't have time for you, buddy.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Jerk.
It's a shame,
Big jerk.
Kind of stinks, so I feel bad. Anyway, Murph, I think you won the beard competition. Congratulations. I think you're 4-0.
Thank you.
Nobody likes the old classics, apparently. So I'm going to have to step my game up. And, Murph, I live in Oregon, home of the microbrew. I may just have to go that route next week.
You guys have like granola beer and stuff, don't you?
Oh, yeah. We got beer made from grass. Literally. Not that kind of grass, but I'm sure there's that kind of beer too up here in Oregon.
Hemp ale?
Yeah. Hemp ale and stuff, Alaskan Thunder beer and stuff, do real great stuff. All right, Murph. Appreciate it. Appreciate the insight. Until next week, check us out, The Sports Degos, thesportsdegos.com, at The Sports Degos on Twitter. Again, mad love, mad respect to all Raider Nation. Just awesome. We're looking to get down to a game in September, either looking at the Steelers at home or the Broncos at home. I think that's what we're looking at, right, Murph?
Yeah, that's it. Steelers or Broncos. Either one of those would be fantastic.
Yeah, we got a cool shirt design, Murph. We're going to be putting through the works here and hopefully get out here in a little bit and stuff. And it's kind of cool. I'm looking forward to it. So, yeah, check us out, thesportsdegos.com, at thesportsdegos on Twitter. Again, mad respect to Raider Nation for Twitter. And until next week, take over the world.
We're taking